Right. How are we? Let's go. Let's go. Can you guys hear me? Reed, Matthew, how you doing, mate? Matthew, hope you're good, bro. How are we? I think you guys should be able to hear me and see me. Let's get cracking. Welcome to the stream, everybody. I hope you guys are good. How am I sounding? How am I looking? I hope it's all good. Welcome back. Haven't done one of these in a minute. Obviously, we always do these ahead of the Europa League games. I'm going to start streaming a lot more regularly again, guys. Apologies, I've kind of taken a bit of a break from that. I've kind of been focusing on more the video side, getting those kind of previews and reviews to a stage where I'm really happy with them and just putting them out. But we will get back to streaming a lot more regularly. Football Manager is coming back. These streams, obviously, before Europa League games are, of course, coming back as well. We can just have a bit of a chat. If you guys want me to start going live more regularly and maybe daily like we used to during the summer, obviously, during the summer transfer window, there was stuff to talk about every single day. Transfer rumours, whatever. You know, we could come on here and we could talk about anything, really. But, you know, there isn't as much to talk about day to day. But if you guys want me to stream, I will happily come on and do that a lot more regularly for you. But, of course, in this game, we're going to talk about AZ Alkmaar. Here's my team that I would personally put out for tomorrow. We'll come back to that very shortly. I just want to say, obviously, a massive thank you to you guys helping me continue to build and grow the channel. I want to say a massive thank you to the response after the video on Sunday after the West Ham win. 12,000 views on that one, so I'm massively appreciative of that. I appreciate all of you guys that kind of lock in to the preview videos and to the review videos as well. Obviously, you know, sometimes it's difficult when Tottenham aren't playing so well. Naturally, kind of things dip a little bit. But I know there is a core of you guys that are always here watching. And you are the guys that are in this stream right now. And I hope you guys enjoyed that one. We went very in-depth on Dane Scarlett's role in this Tottenham side. Dominic Solanke, we had a big chat about as well in that one. So make sure to subscribe if you are new. If you're just watching this off the back of the stream, make sure you join us live next time we do it as well and get involved and interact in the chat with great people like Josh Hayden, Reed Simpson, Matthew Kipola, who's here every time, T as well. So massively grateful for you guys, of course. Make sure to also go over and follow both the TikTok pages, of course, as well. My main account, Ben Bowman, and then Ben Bowman's HFC as well. I'm trying to grow both of those pages. And let's get right into it. We've got a lot of other stuff to talk about today, to be honest, outside of just the game. And like I said, sometimes, you know, obviously those streams that we were doing in the summer, there was stuff to talk about every day with transfer bits, but there is actually a lot of juicy bits to get into. There's a bit of an update on Amanda Staveley as well. There's an article that's been written in The Athletic about her potential investment into Tottenham Hotspur. But let's start with this. So this AZ Alkmaar team is something I've just assembled based off of what their lineup was against PSV Eindhoven at the weekend. I've just kind of taken their lineup. Obviously, I haven't really watched AZ Alkmaar too much this season, but one player, of course, we have been keeping an eye on is Troy Parrott. Now, Troy Parrott has made a decent start to life, obviously, in Alkmaar. He had a very good season last year for Excelsior. This season so far, he's got 5 goals in Eredivisie. I think 4 of them came in one game, but he's got 6 and 11 in all competitions. And it'll be very interesting to see him back at the lane, obviously, tomorrow. We're going to talk about another one of Spurs' academy strikers shortly as well in Dane Scarlett and kind of have a bit of a catch-up with him. But, you know, this is someone that succeeded on loan, like I said, at Excelsior last season. 17 goals in 32 games for them. And for Alkmaar, he started pretty decently as well. Like I said, slightly inflated with the fact that 4 of those came in one game, I think in a 9-1 victory. But he definitely has settled in there, and I would expect him to start tomorrow. Let's have a look at where Alkmaar are currently sitting in the Europa League. Galatasaray are top. Obviously, they're actually playing right now, I believe, against Elfsborg, and Braga are currently taking on Bodo Glimt. Spurs, you can see there in 4th place in the Europa League table. Let me know in the comments as well, guys, by the way, because it is kind of taking a little bit of adjustment to look at the Europa League or the Champions League, obviously watching it last night, in table format, you know, saying someone is top of the Champions League group or top of the Europa League group. So, but we are 4th. We are in the top 4, which is very good. AZ Alkmaar have won 1 and lost 1 in the Europa League, so they currently sit in 19th place. Those victories, they lost to Atletico Bilbao, but they won on the opening day against Elfsborg, who Spurs are taking on as well. I believe in next year in the last couple of games in the Europa League group phase. In terms of their form overall, they have actually lost 4 on the bounce. Alkmaar, they had a decent start to the season. But since then, they've lost at home to Utrecht, lost away at Bilbao, lost away at Fortuna Sittard, and lost at home to PSV Eindhoven. And like I said, this was the lineup they went with in that game. Jordi Classy is probably a player that you recognise as well from the Southampton days. And of course, Troy Parrott. And of course, you probably recognise this name down here, Van Bommel. He is the son of Mark Van Bommel. And again, it'll be remains to be seen how many of these actually play tomorrow for Alkmaar, given the fact that this is just the team that played at the weekend. But it's a good indicator of who we might see out there. I do think we'll definitely see Troy Parrott. But talking about Spurs, I do expect us to go with Guilherme Vicario in goal, as he has done in both of the Europa League games. He's had very good performances in both of those games, obviously at home to Karabag and away at Ferencváros. That back four, I expect Archie Gray to come in, of course. I am really excited to see Archie Gray tomorrow. That little Lacroqueta that he did in the penalty area against West Ham on Saturday was a beautiful sight. And I think he's performed really well in both of the Europa League games so far. So good to see him at right back. Obviously allows him to get up the pitch, tuck into midfield a little bit where he's comfortable. Obviously played at centre-half and at left-back in the game away at Ferencváros, but impressed at right back against Karabag, so hopefully he can do that again tomorrow. Radu Dragusin obviously not suspended anymore, so I think he'll come back in. I do think Van der Ven will partner him, but we have got a comment in the chat here from, where was it? Josh Hayden. Also, Mickey is now going to play 24th, 27th and 30th. Slightly worried about this for fitness. Of course, we have got Manchester City next week in the Carabao Cup as well, so you have to be careful with him a little bit. But again, that is maybe where that recruitment in the summer has sort of come back to bite us, because one thing you could potentially do tomorrow is obviously one thing we saw away from home at Ferencváros was maybe do this, bring Davis into centre-half, and then you do play Destiny Doggy potentially instead of Mickey Van der Ven, but I wouldn't mind seeing Van der Ven in there. But then again, like you said, you are going to use him on Sunday against Crystal Palace, a big game to kind of get back, continue winning ways off the back of the West Ham game, which was such a great performance. And obviously Van der Ven didn't have too much to do defensively against West Ham, so hopefully he didn't really feel the effects of that one too much, other than being kicked by Mohamed Kudus and then pushed in the face. But T. Smither here says Van der Ven needs to be treated like Ledley King, and I do think, in an ideal world, I've said this before, I think you have to wrap Van der Ven up in cotton wool as much as you can, like someone like a Ledley King, obviously, of course. So maybe what you do instead is play Christian Romero there tomorrow. Obviously, he went with Van der Ven and Dragusin in that first game. Against Karabag at home, and obviously Dragusin was sent off inside the first 7 minutes, and hopefully we don't see a repeat of that tomorrow. But potentially that is something that you do and play Dragusin on the left-hand side. Will says O'Doggy and Davis this week, Van der Ven and Spence next week. Of course, we have got Spence to come in next week against Manchester City. He has picked up a slight knock, though, and he wasn't actually in training today, which we'll come to. Obviously, he's not going to be played tomorrow, so it's not too important. So maybe you go with something like that. You guys let me know in the comments. Actually, let's do a poll. What centre-back partnership would you like to see? Because we know it's going to be Radu Dragusin, obviously. Dragusin and VDV, Dragusin and Romero. So let's get that up and running for you guys to have a little vote on there. Josh Hayden says, I'm in desperate need to see Bergvall have 90 minutes. I would like that as well, but the reason I've not got Bergvall in this team is more down to the fact that I think I've been really impressed with Lucas Bergvall, and I think he's so technically secure, and I think he looks confident whenever he plays. I think his out-of-possession work needs a little bit of work, but again, he's 18. That's going to come with time. I think Archie Gray, again, he's played in a slightly different position, of course, obviously, but I think Archie Gray has taken to life at Spurs maybe a little bit better than Bergvall so far in some of these games. And look, I love Bergvall, and I'd be really happy to see him play tomorrow. I would just go with James Maddison, because when you look at the rest of the team, obviously Pat Massad did such an amazing job when he came on for us at the weekend. And there is experience when you go through this team. Say it is Romero and Dragusin potentially. And maybe I'm actually leaning towards that. I think I would go with Romero and Dragusin actually. And currently the poll is 50-50. So make sure to get your votes in on the poll. There is experience throughout this team with Bentancur, obviously, and with Romero. And Richarlison as well, who we'll come on and speak about. But obviously, Maddison came off at the weekend. I think he'll have a bit of fire in his belly, a little bit of bit of a point to prove. And I think, obviously, Odobert just coming back from injury. Richarlison just coming back from injury as well, and Mikey Moore. You've got a mix of inexperience in that front line, and also players just coming back from injury who aren't necessarily as sharp. And I think Maddison putting him in that midfield tomorrow gives Kulusevski a little bit of a rest as well. Who, again, when you look at this, the options that Spurs have got on the bench, that is such a brilliant way to be able to change the game. I would probably put Maddison in there just to see a bit of a... I hate to say it because it's not a response. I don't want to see a response from Maddison tomorrow because he didn't deserve to be taken off on Saturday. It was a tactical change, obviously. It wasn't about hooking him, or this was a guy that created more chances in one half of football than any player did in any 90 minutes in the Premier League all weekend. I would just like to see a performance from Maddison where he goes and really dictates that game, and then goes into Sunday with a bit of confidence as well to go and do that against Palace. Because if you have Maddison on that pitch, I think it increases your chances of obviously going maybe 1-2 up in that first half. Then you can take him off. Then you can give Bergvall a really good 30 minutes, maybe where we are leading in the game. And look, I'd be more than happy to see Bergvall start instead of Maddison tomorrow, because I think, to be honest, these two for me, Bentancur and Sarr, are guaranteed starters. They are guaranteed starters. It's just about whoever comes in that number 10 position. So I think I would like to see Maddison there. I would like to see Maddison go and sort of almost like, obviously it's funny with James Maddison because he's not... there was people saying that obviously he hadn't posted on his Instagram maybe about the win and all this kind of stuff. And obviously he didn't necessarily look too happy on the bench as well. Go and show that bit of anger. Go and show it on the pitch as well, because he's been performing really well. And I think Maddison, with that little bit of, that fire in his belly, I think could be really dangerous in that game tomorrow. So I would like to see that personally. Let's get rid of this little circle. Then moving into the front three. Then Anthony Grimmer says, "I can't see Odegaard starting. Maybe come on for 30 minutes to build game time up. Ange hinted as much in his press conference." Okay, fair enough. We have got some quotes from Ange to go through, so maybe it will. Maybe it will be Timo Werner. It might be. Or, potentially we could see Solanke start again and Richie on the right, maybe. Oh, on the left, sorry, something like that. I wouldn't mind. But again, I think you have to manage Solanke. He puts in such a big shift for us up front, and I was so impressed with his performance. And like I said, guys, if you want to kind of get a bit of a breakdown on what I thought of Solanke's game on Saturday, go and watch the What We Learned from Spurs 4 West Ham 1, because I think there was so much stuff that is just going under the radar really with this guy. But if Odegaard isn't up for playing 90 minutes or isn't up for starting, because again, this is a guy whose last minutes of football were in that Coventry game, and look at what has changed since then. But yeah, he obviously trusts Timo, but for me, I mean, that cameo on Saturday from Timo, and look, I really don't want to shoot him down. I really don't want to just give up on players, and I've tried really hard with Werner, and I think everyone's kind of given him the credit where it is due, because I think he's done a lot of good stuff in this Spurs side. Look, I think the misses against United and Ferencváros, and that cross against Brighton in the first minute of the game to set it through for Johnson, those things are poor, lack of real quality and composure in the final third. But he obviously trusts him for what he does in terms of being able to hold that width, make runs in behind, and that is what Timo Werner is good at. But that cameo on Saturday, and I don't know whether you guys agree, was one of the worst individual performances I think I've seen from Spurs. And it's a good job it didn't matter, because, and maybe that's too harsh. It's a good job it didn't matter in the game. But he just looked like someone really devoid of confidence, and that's a shame, really, because I think that's something that he's kind of suffered from ever since he was at Chelsea, really. But, my God, it was just the basics, really. The poll has ended at 55% at Dragusin and Romero. So I think I'm going to stick with that. I think I'm going to stick with those two playing there at centre-half. But let's get some thoughts on the front line. Ollie Carden says, "I think Timo just needs a goal or two for him to get back to those levels from last season where he was almost unstoppable at times. If he converts his chances, he will become a useful asset." I think I agree with what you said there. I think, if we're living in a world where Timo Werner can be unstoppable, I'd like to go and live in that world, because I don't think he's necessarily been that for Spurs, but he's definitely been effective for sure. But like what you've just said there at the end of that comment, if he converts his chances, he will be a useful asset. That is the biggest if, though, isn't it? Because we've seen all of the other parts of his game come together, but one thing that has been consistently lacking at Tottenham is his ability to finish those chances. So I just don't, I think that's something that's never going to. Maybe look with Brennan Johnson, we saw it. Maybe one goal for Werner could change everything. But the difference with Johnson is that I kind of always believed that he had that inside him. I think we knew that he could be a good finisher. I think we saw that last season. It was just about unlocking that kind of level of confidence. And I want to talk about Brennan Johnson a little bit later in the stream as well. But yeah, JJJ says Van der Ven was in the interview after Ange in the press conference. Yeah, you're right. Speculation is that he will be a starter. Potentially, that is usually the case, isn't it? That is usually the case. That is kind of what I'd like to see. I've just realised Ben Davies isn't actually on the pitch. That is what I'd quite like to see. But my gut is that I think you're right. My gut is that he will go with this. But I think I would probably prefer to see Romero and Dragusin there. But yeah, with Werner, I think it could be Werner. I would like to see Odobert. I would like to see Odobert, even if he's not fully fit enough to get through 90 minutes. Go and get him out there, and then you've always got options to change it off the bench with Johnson and of course with Werner as well potentially, or Mikey Moore moving over to the left hand side, which is something we actually saw in that game away at Ferencváros. So obviously Mikey started on the right, and then Werner comes off, Moore goes over to the left, Johnson comes on the right. So potentially that is something that we will see tomorrow. Obviously, I haven't got Sonny on the bench, and this is why. So Ange Postecoglou has confirmed that Son Heung-Min will not feature in Thursday night's Europa League clash against AZ Alkmaar. Speaking in his pre-match press conference on Wednesday afternoon, Ange revealed that the skipper has felt a little bit sore, after Saturday's 4-1 win over West Ham, having just returned from injury. Sonny missed 3 matches with a hamstring issue, but returned in style, capping his display with a superb strike for our 4th goal. I thought Sonny was super sharp on Saturday, and again, that is something we cover a lot in that breakdown video, so go and watch that if you haven't already. Sorry, I've just lost it. However, Ange has also confirmed that it was planned for the forward to miss the clash. We're managing him. We're actually managing him well. You know, we obviously saw that in that Europa League game against Karabag, that was where he picked up the injury. And again, I think they've seen it as a necessary or a good opportunity to rest him in that one. And I do think him feeling a little bit sore isn't him carrying an injury, which is kind of really is really encouraging, really, because they're being clever. They're managing him. Look, Son has had a lot of rest now, and I expect to see a really sharp Sonny on Sunday against Palace. Obviously, I thought, like I said earlier, I thought Sonny was super sharp on Sunday. He obviously didn't go away with career on international duty. He probably could have made that Brighton game, and maybe he could have made a difference in that one where we lost. But again, I don't think it was our front line that let us down, of course, as we've spoken about many times. And obviously, he missed the United game. So super fresh and super sharp. I expect to see Sonny on Sunday. He said he was never going to be involved anyway. We'll leave him out and see how he is from there. He'll be fine for Sunday. I think this is Spurs actually kind of cleverly managing him. T. Smither says, finally a manager that's using Sonny minutes properly. Matthew Capola, load management for Sonny is necessary going forward. Exactly, because, and Reed Simpson there, Grandpa Sonny isn't a spring chicken anymore. We've seen how effective on Saturday Son Heung-Min can be with proper rest. And that was Sonny, that was a Sonny performance that we kind of were seeing on a regular basis 2 or 3 years ago. So manage him. Look, he's 32 years old, but he's still such a massive part of this side. So yeah. Callum Frizzle says, give Wilson 60 minutes time for Timo to build his confidence. Yeah, I think this is what I've landed on, a mix of kind of what he probably will go with versus what I want to see. I think like I said earlier, I'd probably want to see Romero in there instead of Van der Ven, because I want to see Van der Ven against City next week, because I want us to go really strong in that one, to go and beat them. I think City have shown some vulnerabilities in transition, and I think with the likes of Kulu, likes of Solanke in there, I think we can really hurt them and be really physical and hurt them on the break. But cross that bridge when we come to it. And there'll be a video obviously previewing that next week. Reed Simpson there makes a great point. When is the last international break Sonny had off? I can't really think of it. But yeah, let's leave that for now, and let's we've got some other bits, of course, to go through. Like I said, Wilson Odobert is in full training as well, as Jay points out on Twitter. You can kind of see him there in the rondo. We've spoken about RZ's form coming into this. We've spoken about Troy Parrott. We've spoken about their Europa League exploits, and now let's talk some Spurs general stuff, because just before I came onto the stream, The Athletic kind of published a piece saying that Amanda Staveley's interest in a stake in Tottenham is believed to be genuine. If that interest were to lead to a formal bid, it would likely be for an initial minority stake, with a view to possibly increasing that to a majority share further down the line. Spurs have been very public about their interest in gaining new investment into the club, However, they insist that as it stands, the buzz around Staveley investing in the club is merely speculation, and that this rumoured interest is yet to lead to anything formal. Staveley is said to have formed a positive relationship with Daniel Levy. Now, obviously, we know that Amanda Staveley was at the NFL game at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium last weekend or a couple of weekends ago. There's no smoke without fire here, guys. And like I said, I think before, her name has been attached to Tottenham for a while now, a good while, kind of going back to last season. And look, Amanda Staveley is a broker. She's not. It's not her funds necessarily, and I think there's been a lot of fans that have said that the reason that she left Newcastle was because she had no money. It's not about her having money. It's about her being able to broker that deal with Qatari investment groups potentially to buy that minority stake in Spurs, and of course she would have a role in that, and obviously a financial interest in that, of course, as well. Surfoz there says nothing will happen with Staveley investing in the club. Levy will value her out of the investment. This is one of the things when there were a lot of leaks and rumours going around last week. The numbers didn't quite add up. I think with Spurs being potentially valued at around 5 billion, 6 billion, potentially, I can't exactly remember the numbers. If this Qatari investment group headed up by Staveley or being kind of brokered by Staveley to do that deal with Spurs had 12.5%, which is the numbers that were being rumoured, you're kind of valuing Spurs more than Real Madrid. So it doesn't really quite add up necessarily. Although Spurs are, there is an argument to say that we are right up there with some of the richest clubs and most valuable clubs in the world because of the real estate that we've got, because of the stadium that we've got, because of the obviously the NFL and all those kind of things as well. So we have got value. We do hold a very high, strong value, of course. So you can understand why Levy would maybe be optimistic with his valuation of the club, but maybe it could lead to him potentially pricing out someone that does want to come in and invest. I think going back to the financial end of year statement from Spurs last season, I do think they said quite openly that they are open to minority investment, because I think Daniel Levy, for the most part, wants to continue to invest in the club as a business thing, and obviously have these other areas of investment as well with the hotels and maybe and things like that. Maybe someone else comes in, this Qatari investment group comes in and spends their money potentially on really adding and bolstering to that playing squad that, we've said it many times. And if I go to Spurs here, I want to talk about Aston Villa quickly as well, because I think Aston Villa is such a good barometer. I made a video about this on TikTok just now, actually, and you guys might find this interesting and we can maybe watch it together, talking about their squad building. And look, I don't want to compare Spurs and Villa. I think there's definitely different ways of going about it. And I'm not saying Spurs' squad building has been bad, because I really don't think it has at all. But when you look at what they've done, and let's watch the video. Oh, is there no sound? Oh, apologies for that. Apologies for that. There we go. Right, sorry about that, guys. Aston Villa's squad building since Unai Emery came to the club has been nothing. I'm sure those. Yes, we always give Unai Emery the credit for what he's done. I'm sure those are good points, but I can't hear them. Hopefully, I think you can hear them now. You should be able to hear them now. Turn things around at Villa, taking them from just above the relegation zone to the Champions League. The fact that they're top of the table after 3 games, not conceding a goal, is incredible. But it's about time we start giving credit to the people above Unai Emery, Aston Villa, Monchi, and all of the people that have backed him and made this vision at Aston Villa come to life. Tielemans, McGinn, Rodgers and Duran was the left-hand side for Aston Villa of their attack and midfield yesterday. That cost them £30 million. You go into their midfield and attack, players like Jacob Ramsey and John Duran aren't even guaranteed starts for them. Ian Matson at the back as well. This is such a brilliantly well-built squad with different options, different profiles. And this is why I think that they can go far in the Champions League. Look, I'm not necessarily saying that they are dark horses to win it, but with their squad building, the profiles that they've got in their squad, mixed with Unai Emery's tactical genius, they can beat big teams. They can change things up in-game with the profiles that they've got on the bench, like we've obviously seen with John Duran so many times already this season. But it's not just about him, and it's clever recruitment. They've brought in players for minimal fees as well from the Championship, players like Morgan Rogers. They've gambled on young talent. I think Yuri Tielemans was maybe a free from Leicester. They've taken opportunities so well in the market, as well as spending big money. And actually, for the most part, other than maybe Amadou Onana, it's actually some of the big money signings that haven't really worked out. You're not going to get everything right. But look at their midfield options. Barkley, McGinn, Tielemans, Buendia, Leon Bailey, Boubacar Kamara, Morgan Rogers, Amadou Onana. Jacob Ramsey listed as a forward, but he's another midfielder as well. They've got so many different players that they can play. I love Unai Emery, and I actually think it's quite sick to see someone like Aston Villa doing well in the Champions League. They deserve to be there because they've backed a manager, they've backed this project. He is a tactical genius in his own right, but I think it's about time we start giving some praise to the people above him at Villa that have helped him on his way. Right. Apologies if you couldn't hear that at the start. I guess with Spurs, look, I think this is why we need someone to come in and really kind of elevate us to that next level, kind of maybe financially, because I think there are lessons to be learned, like a team from a team like Aston Villa, because, and it's not just about the money, and I actually think we're on the path to what Villa have done in terms of building that squad. Very clever recruitment, dipping into the Championship is something that we've done as well with players like Archie Gray. And obviously kind of gambled on young talent as well and brought in proven players. So I do think that summer was working towards that, and you can't do everything in one summer. But that needs to continue to kind of get to where they are maybe in terms of being able to change these games up in big Champions League games. They've got different profiles for different games, for tactical tweaks, all these kind of things. They've got such a great array of options. But I also think that's not necessarily always down to the money. And I do think we're getting to where Villa have got to because they are clearly buying into what Johan Lang wants to do, what Scott Munn wants to do, and what Ange Postecoglou wants to do. And that, for me, can hopefully be kind of a similar sort of three-pronged approach. And kind of get and Champions League money, obviously, as JJJ says there, has helped that. And, you know, I don't think Spurs necessarily need to rely on Champions League money to be able to spend big. But, you know, I think their squad is probably in a better... I think we've got a lot of quality in this squad, right? But I think when you look at their squad and some of the options that they've got, I think they've probably got more ready options than we do. But again, that will come. That comes with time. That comes with these young players developing. That comes with, you know, older recruitment, more physical profiles of recruitment, which is something I actually want to talk about in a video. Me and Will discussed it on Daring and Doing. I don't really know where I was going with that comparison necessarily to Villa, but like I said, I think it's a mix of having money coming in with the Qataris, maybe with Staveley as well, heading that up, but continuing to buy into the vision of what the manager and what the club wants to do, and kind of buying all these kind of different profiles to be able to get them through different situations in big Champions League games and big European games. And I think that we will get there with that as well. But I just think Villa deserved a lot of praise for that. But yeah, Staveley, keep an eye on what goes on there. Radu Dragusin, this is really starting to irritate me now. And look, thankfully his agent has kind of come out and kind of cleared up the situation, saying that, or talking about the rumours that he potentially wants to leave Spurs. Right now, we are not interested in approaches from other clubs, and I don't think Tottenham want to let him go either. Because there were rumours that came out yesterday that Spurs defender Radu Dragusin is considering leaving the club due to a lack of playing time. Now, when I first read this, obviously the source isn't the most reliable necessarily, but I think I was kind of worried that it was his agent opening his big mouth again, which is kind of the last thing we need with Radu Dragusin. But hopefully it seems like it's nothing really in it. But again, I think Spurs fans as well kind of need to get around the fact that it's great to have kind of talk about what we were talking about just with, Aston Villa just then. Having different options and having this depth is such a great thing. And I don't think it's something that we should kind of take for granted. And I know there have been some Spurs fans that have kind of like wanted to force Dragusin into the starting 11, whether that's playing a back three with Romero and Van der Ven. What happens if one of them gets injured? Then you haven't really got any centre-back depth there. So same with James Maddison. I found the narrative around the James Maddison thing on Saturday, not necessarily from Spurs fans, but from the media. I saw articles in The Athletic talking about, is this the way that Spurs go now with Sarr coming in for Maddison? No, not necessarily. It's great to have these different options. Pat Matasar, like we come back to it, he will start tomorrow. He's someone that is such a cheat code for these European games because you've got someone there that is so fresh, not necessarily starting in the league, someone who's such a physical monster, being able to come on and change big Premier League games for Spurs like we saw on Saturday. So it's about having a squad and it's about having different options. And if Radu Dragusin is not happy, which hopefully isn't the case, then I'm sorry, but that's being at a big club. That's having competition for places. But anyway, so Spurs obviously got charged by the FA on Saturday after that Mickey van der Ven and Kudus incident. I believe we were fined £20,000, and I think Ange Postecoglou has summed this up really well. I made a TikTok video about this yesterday about the fact that I just never really understand why clubs are punished for their players going in and sort of defending their teammates. So Ange Postecoglou said, "I thought our players controlled themselves," which I think they definitely did. I think they did. But obviously the FA felt differently. I think we handled it the best we could, but the FA thought it still wasn't a good look, so we've been fine. The club will take care of that. Obviously, he's kind of towed the party line. But, mate, like, what I didn't think it was over the top. Obviously, Richarlison kind of got in there, threw himself around, and got put to the floor by someone's shoulder. But I thought Spurs were quite controlled. Van der Ven had every right to react in the way that he did and got booked for it. That's the punishment. You know, that's that. I don't know. I always find these things a little bit stupid. To be honest, from the FA. But again, we move on. Dane Scarlett, obviously, we were talking about Troy Parrott earlier, someone who kind of was an academy striker and left Spurs to go on to hopefully bigger and better things for him, because it clearly wasn't going to work out at Spurs. Dane Scarlett is someone who's never really properly kind of found his feet on loan at a particular club. It's never really worked out for him, and it's kind of taken a while for it to work out for him at different clubs. And, you know, Portsmouth, he was in the team at the start scoring goals, and a change of manager changed things for him there. Where was he last season? At Ipswich. Unfortunately for him, he wasn't in the team. Then Ipswich just caught fire and he didn't really have a chance. Then came back to Spurs in the second half of the season. And this is someone that Ange clearly likes. He was coming on in the Premier League the last few games of last season. Came on against Burnley, I believe. Came on maybe against Man City or Sheffield United potentially as well. And I do think they see him in the pecking order ahead of someone like Aleo Veliz. And Matthew's kind of just asked that question there about who do you think they value more, Veliz or Scarlett? I think it's Scarlett. I do. And look, Oxford again, it felt at the start like another loan where it wasn't going to work for him. But 3 goals in the last 3 games for club and country, a crucial equalising goal in the last minute against West Brom at the weekend, a goal last night against Derby County where he wins the ball back, then gets on the end of his own move, showing a little bit of confidence, good form, scoring in consecutive games. I really hope this is the start for Dane Scarlett, because I think there is really something in there. I do think there's such a bright talent. It's just about finding the right environment for him to really thrive and then go to that next level where he can come back to Spurs and really kind of maybe stake a claim. But obviously we've got Will Lancashire now, we've got Veliz. There's a lot of players who can play ahead of him. Richarlison and Solanke. Spurs have got so many striking options at the club and not at the club. So, you know, whatever happens with Dane Scarlett, I really hope he finds his feet somewhere, because I think there's a real talent in there. And look, I think it's great for him. Great for him to kind of to find somewhere he feels comfortable and feels at home and he's scoring goals, because as a striker, that's the currency you're judged on. Finally, I want to talk quickly about, bear with me 2 secs, that is some of the analysis that we did from the weekend. Like I said, if you want to go watch that video, then please do. And also, guys, I want to know, like I said earlier in the stream, where there wasn't as many of you guys here, I haven't done a stream for a while. I've kind of just been limiting these streams to doing previews to the Europa League, because I've just found it a little bit more efficient to get the videos out and get them to a better quality when I'm analysing and previewing the big Premier League games. So I do apologise for that. I think it just started a bit after the Arsenal game, where actually, being plain and simple, I couldn't do a stream to break down the North London derby because I didn't have a thumbnail, because Will was on holiday, so I couldn't do it live, and I think it kind of just like started from there, really. So I do miss doing them on a more regular basis, and since then I've kind of just I've been doing those videos as just videos. So I hope you guys don't think that it's, you know, that I don't enjoy doing the streams or anything like that. It's just a little bit more efficient and effective for me to be able to get the best quality of analysis out there. So I do apologise for that, and I apologise if you can hear my dog barking as well. But yeah, we will get back to streaming more regularly. And you guys let me know what you want to see. Football Manager is coming back. I think that's going to come back tomorrow. That's going to come back tomorrow as well. And maybe we can move those things over to Twitch, or we can do some other bits. So you guys let me know what you want to do, what you want to see from like a streaming perspective. Because I do enjoy doing them, and I really enjoy engaging with you guys. Whether we can look at memberships as well, we do like member only streams. And again, I don't want you guys to, I don't want to ask you guys to part way with your money or anything like that. But if that's something you want to see, more content, you want to see more streams, something you'd maybe pay for, then we can obviously explore that in the future. as well. And like I said earlier in the stream, right, I really enjoyed doing those streams over the summer when the transfer window was a thing, because there was stuff to talk about every single day. Whereas that's not really the case now. So we have to be a bit more creative in these kind of streams. So yeah, you guys let me know what you want. You guys let me know what you want in the comments and in the chat, and we will try and facilitate that in the best way possible. But finally, this is what I want to talk about, and end the stream on a really positive note, because Brennan Johnson's Instagram is back, guys. He's reactivated the Instagram, and he did a really good interview where he was talking about it, actually. So I think this came back today, and I like Brennan Johnson's Instagram. I think he posts some really cool fashion bits on there, some photo dumps. I think he expresses his personality, which I think is really important for a footballer. But he did an interview talking about the Instagram stuff. That's my Twitter. So he said has broken his silence on why he really deleted his Instagram. It wasn't a massive deal for me. It wasn't anything too tactical, and it definitely wasn't to try and enhance and improve my game or add something different. It was just a personal decision that I made instead. All the training and hard work never stopped throughout. It wasn't a change in my approach, as I always come in and try and do the best I can for the team because I love this team. Now, this is something that Ange Postecoglou actually kind of alluded to himself, because when he got asked about it in the press conference prior to Brentford or Coventry maybe, he said that Brennan isn't a guy that's going out all the time. He's not distracted by social media or anything like that. He comes in and works very, very hard every single day. And I think it's just, sometimes it takes one game, one moment to click, really click and hit a hot streak. Because we saw with Brennan Johnson last season what he could do for Spurs. But I think we're seeing that more on a consistent basis now. And he gave Ryan Mason a lot of credit for it. Obviously, Ryan Mason is staying at Spurs now. He's not going to Anderlecht. And I do think, I don't think Ryan Mason will be with us much longer. I think he wants to go and be a manager, be a coach, which I really respect. He said, I've been working with the coaches here, and especially with Ryan Mason. He's been doing a lot of work with me, picking up the right positions, the different types of finishes, what kind of part of the foot I'm hitting with, and also dribbling and then shooting. And I do think that in the last 7 games or so where Brennan Johnson for Wales and Spurs went on that run of scoring in every game and was a threat on Saturday as well, even though he didn't get his goal, I think we've seen more of a confidence and more of an arrogance in those positions in front of goal. His finishing has improved. The Brighton one where he sweeps it home left-footed first time. So yeah, I definitely think we've seen that. And look, I don't think anything's changed. Nothing changed with Brennan Johnson deleting his Instagram. It wasn't a lack of focus. It's just the reality is that I don't think it was a good place for him to be in, bearing in mind some of the abuse that he was getting from our own so-called fans and other people as well. So he decided to delete it. Maybe he's controlling it in a better way now. Who knows? And again, you can't control those things sometimes. You can't control when things are thrown at you like that. Maybe just that he's not looking at messages or not looking at comments, or someone else is maybe managing for him and he's just telling them to upload what he wants to upload on there. Maybe that's the way to go. I do think there's a problem with young footballers and social media and their mental health, but it's really good to see Brennan Johnson in a happy, smiley place where he's affecting games on the pitch for Tottenham. So great to see it. I've always believed in Brennan, despite the fact that I have had my concerns about certain parts of his game in the past. I remember doing a piece of analysis after the Leicester game, first game of the season, where he didn't get his head up and didn't run at the Leicester defence when there was a real opportunity to do that, and I was very frustrated in those moments, as we all get as a fan. But I've always believed that there is a player in there that will really come good, and I don't think some people have had, and I think some people have gone way too over the top on the criticism and abuse that they've given him. So really happy for Brennan, and go and give him a big follow and show him some love on Instagram as well. But that's where we're going to end the stream, guys. Look, like I said earlier, I really enjoyed doing these again. They're going to come back more regularly. Football Manager, I think, will return tomorrow, probably before the RZ game. I might do a stream tomorrow before I head off to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. So the Ben Bowman Spurs FM24 save will return. Don't you worry about that. And we will think about what other streams we can do in the future. So please message me, please tweet me, please leave a comment, please get in the chat now and tell me what you want to see and what stuff you'd like me to see me talk about on stream or do. Maybe another podcast, maybe a different podcast, maybe a general football podcast might be something that's coming in the future with someone else. So you guys, as always, I really appreciate the community that we kind of built here and the feedback that you guys always give me. And it's a really good space for some Spurs fans to come and have a chat and come and interact and engage. That's what I want it to be. So massively appreciate you guys as always. Make sure to like the stream, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you are new, and I will see you in the next one. Up the Spurs.